Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Got co-host today, Joey, and we're joined with Johnny from the Burns Pub and Restaurant. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. It's been a pretty slow day at work, so just join it now and get to talk to you. So things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done a podcast yet, so that's a new one to my add to the resume.
Yeah, well, we're excited to be the first ones to interview you. Have you done anything else for media? Have you written any articles or blogs about the Burns Pub, or have you been interviewed before?
Yeah, we've done. I've done interviews with newscasts and stuff like that, and written articles for and blogs actually. Guest blogged for some people about whiskey and I've done just newspaper stuff, but and regarding different aspects of whether it was back when I drove a cab or whatever. It was all sorts of different things. So, but yeah, looking forward to getting to know you guys better and talk about our love, which is the restaurant and inn.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's great that you brought up whiskey because that was how I originally found you guys. You were on a list for like the top 50 whiskey bars in the U.S. and I was like, man, like got to try and get these guys on the show. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'm glad you saw that article. It's a kind of a nice little feather in your cap, but we just do it because we love it.
So, kind of going off what Frankie said, being one of the top 50 whiskey bars in the United States, what whiskeys do you serve at Burns?
Well, we've got about 500 whiskeys, actually a little over that, I think, and mostly single malt Scotch. But we do have quite a bit of bourbons and Irish whiskeys, and we have a lot of pride in our local distilleries as well, Colorado whiskeys. My love's always been Scotch, and so therefore, I guess that's just what you gravitate towards, and not to mention it pairs well with the food, and so we're mainly a Scotch bar, but like I said, we've got probably about 150 bourbons and ryes, locals, Irish whiskeys as well. We have a good world whiskey selection as well, from all over the globe, places that people don't really think of when they think of whiskey. Obviously Japan, but that seems to be the buzzword these days, Japanese whiskey. But we have quite a bit from India and England, France, all over.
So, how do the whiskeys in the different countries and continents, how do they compare?
I think quite favorably. I wouldn't say that they're better. We always get these people coming in saying, something along the lines of, so I hear Japanese whiskey's better than Scotch. That's not true, but it's different. It's one of those things that if you craft something well, if you make a great spirit, it's going to get recognition. And frankly, the recognition the Japanese whiskeys have had are overdue. A lot of people don't realize that they've been making whiskey in Japan for about a century. And it kind of started with a gentleman by the name of Masataka Takatsuru back in the day, who actually studied in Scotland. He was went to the University of Glasgow and studied chemistry there, and became involved in a lot of the distilleries there, and interned at a lot of the Scotch distilleries back in the day. This was back in the 1920s, I believe, and actually fell in love with a Scottish woman who was the daughter of somebody he was boarding with, which, back in those days, that wasn't very common. She actually went to Japan with him, and they started the Nika distillery, and that was a long time ago. So they've been making great whiskey in Japan and that for quite a while now. So it wasn't until I believe it was the Whiskey Bible named a Japanese whiskey, the sherry casked Yamazaki, I believe, as the whiskey of the year, and all of a sudden it became a big trend. again, it's something that's long overdue. They've been making great whiskey for a very long time. You're starting to see it a lot with Indian malts, and even in Australia and New Zealand. France is making some very good whiskeys. They're different, but they're still very good, And so, yeah, I'd say they compare quite favorably. I wouldn't say that they're better. I think that when you are doing something at the very highest level, it's really kind of hard to top that.
Right. It sounds like they're all good in their own way.
And they use different process. You utilize different, like in Japan, Mizunara wood is a lot more used. They're starting to use it with other whiskeys these days, but Mizunara is something that is regional. It's where they're from. So the wood's something that they're using for their casks there, and it produces a different character to the whiskey. Outside of that, it's actually made very much like Scottish whiskey is.
Very cool. Yeah, you seem very knowledgeable in the world of whiskey, more so than Joey and I, that's for sure. We just like to drink it. We don't really know as much about the history, or even really, this is probably my first time being exposed to whiskeys from around the world. I didn't really know that Japan and India were, up and comers in the scene. So that's great to hear.
Oh yeah, there's actually lots of other countries as well. Germany, Sweden. There's lots of countries. Wales has a distillery called Penderyn, which is producing a fantastic whiskey these days. And so, yeah, you guys you do drink it though? You just don't know much about it, or?
So my dad was a big bourbon guy. So I've had a good selection of bourbons. Whiskey, not so much. And I think the only thing I really drink from Japan is sake. That's always good with some sushi.
Yeah, I actually, and I'm not just into whiskey. I do actually enjoy a lot of different spirits. I think it'd be a little bit too single-minded to stick with just one thing. But yeah, that is my love and passion, I guess you could say. But I love a great rum. I love a great, all sorts of different types of spirits.
Very cool. And being that you're from Colorado, I'm sure you get to enjoy the benefits of trying a bunch of different products. I know out west, especially in Colorado, distilleries are, they're a staple of the culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's some really unique ones too, and that's something that I didn't see coming. I think that the micro distillery movement kind of started here in Colorado with Stranahan's, and it just kind of blew up from there. And I don't think anybody really saw how big it was going to get. I mean, they're all over the place now, not just Colorado, but there's certainly plenty of them here in Colorado. And I want to give a shout out to my friends at Talnua for doing something that they're actually the only pot still Irish style whiskey outside of Ireland, which is it's a very specific style, and it's it's specifically only practiced in Ireland except for until now. And Talnua is doing that kind of traditional Irish style right here in Colorado. So I think that's really cool. And there's a lot of other innovators here in Colorado as well.
That's amazing that they're doing such unique work right there in Colorado. We actually did a podcast with Lee Spirits, and they're in Colorado Springs.
That's right.
And they sent us some Gin Fuego and some other very unique gins and other type of spirits, and they were great.
Yeah, we actually carry quite a bit of the Lee Spirits stuff at our pub. We use a lot of their liqueurs, and they do really, really fine product. Yeah.
That's so cool that you guys you guys work with each other in some capacity, and now you guys are both on the podcast. That's it just warms my heart as a host,
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. I think that connection is always good to see. They actually are. I think you're starting to see a lot of really good distilleries that kind of specialize in doing very unique liqueurs and other types of spirits, and really kind of, I think here in the States, maybe more than anywhere, you're seeing a kind of a maverick sensibility to the approach of distilling, whether it be, like in whiskey, there were several of them with, starting to use blue corn or smoking the spirit, or stuff like that, and I think that that's branched out into the liqueurs, and I think you got some really unique, really unique product out there right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you probably know better than I do. So, how is the like evolution of distilling? What is the progression that it's taken? You started to touch on it there. Would you say that now people are starting to get away from like the old ideology of how you should be crafting spirits?
Yes and no. I think that the core is still there. I think that I mean, obviously, you're going to have some distilleries that are trying to cheat the system and adding a bunch of flavoring and artificial stuff and whatever to kind of maybe create something different or whatever. But I think that at its core, you're starting to see the ones that really kind of set themselves above as still being traditional in their approach. So it's just a matter of how they do it. If that makes any sense. It's like I said, I mentioned there's a distillery in Texas called Balcones that is using blue corn, and that instead of using sweet corn or other types of corn, you're seeing, and that produces a very distinctly different kind of flavor. And those types of things, and maybe their approach, but I think that at its core, they're not trying to cheat the system and not trying to cheat how it's made. And those are the ones that are actually, I think, getting most of the recognition, or at least the accolades that are going mostly to those distilleries. I think that obviously you've got your fireballs and stuff like that are very popular, but they're not respected, if you will. So I think the ones that are respected are still keeping that core distillation process and just trying new things.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That being said, I'm definitely more closer to the fireball end of the spectrum than like than fine like distinguished spirits.
That's right.
I prefer a good bullet rye over Fireball myself, but Frankie's a little different still.
I didn't say I preferred it. I didn't say I preferred it, but definitely more just like run of the mill, the classics, like Jack, Crown, and the Fireball on occasion. So
Yeah, sure.
On a special occasion, Fireball.
It's there for a reason, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. That's funny. So, Johnny, kind of getting a little bit back to more of the Burns story. So, how long have you guys been in operation?
Well, the Burns Pub and Restaurant has a very, I would say, a kind of serpentine route as to how it came about. It started off as just the inn, and then it became a tea room and restaurant. We had a different manager for a while with the tea room and restaurant. The pub and restaurant, as it stands today, was August 3rd, 2011. I know that because we have a picture of Miss America 2011 in the pub, and she happened to be staying at the inn the day that the pub opened, and so we got a picture of her with a dated and signed "Congrats on the opening" kind of thing to the Burns Pub from her, and so that's. August 3rd, 2011 was the official day, and like I said, it's kind of evolved from there. In fact, we ran the tea room simultaneously with the pub when we first opened up, because frankly we're cheap and we didn't have any money to market it or anything like that. So we just ran it simultaneously with the tea room. And we were doing the teas for quite a while. We had a great tea lady at the time and didn't want to lose that aspect of the business. But in the end, the pub just became more and more and more popular, and we have a very small kitchen, and those guys were getting a little bit frazzled back there trying to do, pub grub and tea towers at the same time. So, tea towers are quite laborious. So that's eventually we had to close the tea room down as well. But whiskey won. But yeah, that's how it started. I mean, as far as how it started was basically just a melding of my love of my mother's cooking and my aunt's cooking on Corrine. I kind of grew up on their food. My mother was from Northampton, England. I spent a lot of my youth over in the UK. and just grew up on their cooking and loved their cooking. So that was the cooking side of it, and then the other side of it was a love of Scotch. So just married them both together, and the Burns Pub was born.
Yeah, seems like a great combo.
I think so. Yeah, we we seem to have gotten some favor with the locals too, so that's always reassuring.
That's awesome, Johnny. So what's your favorite food to go along with a good glass of scotch?
It really depends on the Scotch. I think that people when people think of Scotch, they think of smoky and really heavy and robust, I guess. But there are actually lighter Scotches as well. So lighter, more sherried, and all sorts of different flavor profiles. There's a lot of different food that goes with it. I would say the lazy man's answer would probably be goes really well with seafood, and for good reason. We actually do a decent amount of seafood right here in the middle of Colorado, a landlocked state, but get high quality seafood, and so we do stuff like fisherman's pie, and of course our fisherman's chips, or fish and chips rather, and which is by far our best seller. But yeah, we do a decent amount of seafood and scallops, stuff like that. So I think that just goes very well with a lot of scotches, I think.
Oh, for sure. It's been a minute since I've had some good fish and chips, so I'm excited to come and visit, and we'll try the entire menu and have some good drinks.
Absolutely. We're ready for you, bud.
Just to get the lineage correct here, the inn was open for quite a bit of time before the pub, correct?
Yeah, it was. My mother and father actually bought it back in 2001. I was living in Seattle at the time. I had a job that I absolutely hated. So when they said, "Why don't you come and help us out over here?" and that's how that came about. But yeah, it was just an inn back in those days, and it was my bright idea to open up the to do a pub. My mother was kind of the inspiration for the tea room. We actually had another tea lady that had another tea room back in those days. That was in '05, and she helped us open up the tea room, and that was going very well. But we just saw an opportunity to do something a little different. But it was just it was just an inn prior to that. It was built, I think, in the 1980s, 1984, as a corporate stay for Ball Corporation. If you saw the place now and you saw it when we first got it, you wouldn't recognize it. They're just completely different places now. So,
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, as time goes on, and then of course you had to do renovations inside. You put in a tea. You guys put in a tea shop. Then you guys had a bar and restaurant. So yeah, I'm sure it's seen its fair share of renovations.
oh yeah, it's morphed a lot. Like I said, that kind of took a very serpentine kind of route to get here, but that's where we are, and it's going very well.
You mentioned that your family, specifically your mom and your aunt, they had some great cooking, which led to the inspiration for the restaurant and pub. What would you say is your favorite, family dish or like a traditional European dish that you like to consume?
That's a tough one. My mother was she made a great shepherd's pie. We do a very similar shepherd's pie made with lamb, not beef. That's not a shepherd's pie. We do a very similar shepherd's pie at the pub. We have had to adapt it a little bit to be in a restaurant setting, but it's still very similar to hers. So I've always been a big fan of that. As far as stuff that you know what, the thing that I always loved about British cooking, I guess you could say, is British breakfasts. I've always been a big fan of British breakfasts and the way that they have breakfast there. And so I would like to do that, maybe something to do further on down the road. We actually were doing brunches for a little while and did them for a bit. But I'd like to actually go back to that because I do still love my British breakfasts for sure.
Yeah, I actually had a British roommate for about a little over a year in college, and they don't quite like overindulge like we do for breakfast. Like I would cook up 5 eggs, some sausage, some toast, and my roommate would be like, "Dude, what the heck? I'm like, yeah, this is just what I eat for breakfast.
And I think it's different in the UK because sometimes, like if you're in the country in the UK, they actually do have a big hearty breakfast. If you're in the city, it's super light. So it's a different thing. The hearty breakfasts that you have in the country though are a bit different than the ones we have here. You usually have beans and stewed tomatoes and black pudding and stuff like that, blood pudding. If you're familiar with that one, something that doesn't never really came over the pond, if you will. Blood pudding is a lost art form.
Yeah, what is that? Because I never heard I didn't hear them mention like anything about that.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Blood pudding, and if you're in Scotland, haggis. But blood pudding is, it's tricky to explain. It's basically cooked down blood, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. It's actually, I believe it's illegal to actually produce here in the States. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's actually illegal to produce here. Now, I have seen places serve it, so I don't know if they're getting it imported or what, but someone's told me that it's actually illegal to produce here.
Yeah, it says it's pork blood and oatmeal.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Wow. That is wild. Well, my
Yeah.
roommate did make oatmeal every morning. He didn't put the blood in it though.
No blood, huh? Well, you're missing out. You haven't had oatmeal until you've had some pork blood in it.
Wait, so you've tried it before? Like, what is your thoughts on it?
I like it. I really do. I miss it. I don't. It's not something that and I'm actually trying to change my diet a little bit and get away from meat so much. But and that's my wife's doing probably more than anything. I love it. It's a bit salty. But yeah, it's tasty. It's difficult to explain it. You just got to try it. As with most things in life, I would say, right?
Yep.
That's
I guess
fair. Yeah.
when I go visit them in the UK here in the next year, I'll have to give it a try.
Absolutely. You're gonna go to the UK. Where are you going to?
They're from like the Manchester area.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
yeah, there was about five of them, five British guys that came over for a year or so, and I became pretty close with them, and they've came and visited twice so far in the past like year and a half, but I haven't had the opportunity to go there yet. So we're probably gonna go to Manchester and London.
It's your turn then, right?
Yep, it's my turn. Actually, one of the other guys is coming here for Christmas, and then he's like, dude, after I come for Christmas, I've already came like 3 times. You need to come to the UK. I'm like, I know it. I got the trip planned this year.
Right. Well, it's definitely a great town. I like Manchester a lot. There's a lot of great bands from there too. So they do one of the music tours that they do there. Worth doing. See where some of those great bands started from. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it brings me to another question. So a lot of British singers or like even like Australian people that are abroad that come here and they become musicians, they don't sing with an accent. They sing as if they've been in America their whole life. I don't know why that is. Do you know?
I'm a bit of a music fanatic too. And I think that it basically started with the American inspiration from rock and roll. Beatles, Rolling Stones, all those guys were influenced by Buddy Holly and the great rock and roll artists, Elvis Presley, obviously, but Eddie Cochran, all those guys. They had their own artists as well, like Billy Fury and stuff like that. So I think that it was just basically the inspiration from 1950s era rock and roll that crossed over, and they just wanted to sound like them at first. Obviously, that changed. As the Beatles and the Rolling Stones started to go their own path. If you really listen to the early Beatles records and the early Rolling Stones records, they were very heavily American influenced and blues influenced. So I think that's probably where it started from. But then you get to hear a Billy Bragg record or something like that, where he doesn't try and disguise it at all. It's
Yeah.
very English sounding.
Yeah, that was just something that I've always wondered about musicians abroad. Thank you for shedding a little bit of light on that.
Yeah, it's just my 2 cents, right?
So kind of going back to Johnny's a little bit, what's your favorite part about owning and operating a bar?
Well, I know it probably sounds cliche, but I'd say just the customers and getting to know them. I mean, we get a lot of regulars, and if it weren't for them, I would have no friends at all, because I'm pretty much there all the time. So I would say that's a big part of it. Getting to know the regulars and meeting new people that just found out about the place and love the place and just that really kind of warms the heart, So that's the seeing people appreciate what we're doing is just huge for me. Like I said, probably a cliche answer, but that's the truth of it.
That's a great answer, Johnny. While you've been owning this bar, what was the most important lesson you've learned over the years?
That you don't know everything. I'm very fortunate because I'm not actually the owner. It's family owned. My sister and I run it. And my father pops in from time to time, tells us what we're doing wrong. We ignore it, go on. But Tracy and I actually run it. And I say that we take his word, because he's probably going to hear this. But the truth is that we take his word and say, well, can we adapt it to what we're doing and that type of thing. So I would say that you really just have to listen to what other people are saying, to what your partners are saying. Tracy is fortunately a different type of person than I am. She's really, it's the yin to my yang. Or I don't know how that saying goes, but something like that anyway. But yeah, she kind of keeps me in check. And she's very A-type personality and is very detail oriented, and I'm detail oriented as well, but about other things, and so I would say if you're going to partner with somebody, that's the thing that you want, somebody that can be a balance to what you do best, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of fill in the gaps where you may not be as great, she fills those in you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And she does a brilliant job of it. And I'm not saying that I don't have to worry about those things, but it is one of those things where it's like, okay, that's really, I'm going to trust your judgment on that because that's your area of expertise and this is mine. And we collaborate on everything. I always defer to her when it comes to the things that she does best, so it's something that I think works out very well.
That makes a lot of sense. And have you seen a big change in the food and beverage industry in the past 10 years, 11 years since you guys have opened till now?
Well, there's always going to be changes, right? I mean, people gravitate towards certain things. And I mean, obviously, there's the whole string of themed restaurants and themed cocktail bars, that type of thing. I think that's maybe waning a bit lately, but I think it's still certainly a thing. And I think that in the end, the ones that are doing very well are sticking to their guns and not holding back on trying to market themselves too much as a something for every man. At least here in Denver, anyway, I'm seeing a lot of very successful restaurants and bars that had a concept and they've stuck with it. They didn't try to change who they are and be something that they're not because they wanted to follow a trend. The trends come and go. The restaurants that stick around are known for what they do, and they do it well. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
it does, Johnny. When I was looking online, you guys have almost a perfect 5-star rating. How did you get to that, and what do you do to kind of keep all your customers happy?
Man, I wish I knew the answer to that. We just do what we do. I would say that it's probably just love. We pay very close attention to the service. I have a floor manager named Julia that I trust 100%, and I have, a great staff, and they're always on top of service, and we, try and train and try and get people to understand what we do and everything like that as best we can. And we just try and pay attention to it. I mean, if I see food coming out wrong, I make sure that it comes out right. That type of thing, and that's basically it. I want people to have the best experience, and that's very genuine and sincere. I don't think that we're not a corporate restaurant. We're not trying to turn them over. We let people relax and enjoy themselves and enjoy their company that they came with. And if they want to talk, we spend the time to talk with them. You want to talk whiskey? Oh my God, get me to shut up about it. So I think that that's probably it. And I can't say for sure because I'm not. Those review sites are kind of a bittersweet thing for us because obviously we have great reviews and everything, but when you take a lot of pride in what you do, those bad reviews are like needles, and it could be 1 in 100, but it hurts, because you take so much pride in what you do. So it's one of those things that has always been. It's the voice of the masses, and that's great. It's awesome, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's not exactly how that happened, and I don't know if you really should be writing that kind of a review, that type of thing, but. You take it as it comes, and you just got to kind of let it wash off your back if it's something that you don't want to hear. But we do take all of those complaints seriously. I mean, there's no question. It's an impetus to make us want to get to 5 stars flat out. Of course, that's probably mathematically an impossibility, but it is what it is. So yeah, we love it. We just enjoy what we do, and try and have fun every day. And that's I think probably why we're in that spot.
Very cool. Yeah, like Joey said, you guys are like a 4.999999.
I don't know if it's that high, but it's good to hear because I haven't looked lately, so I appreciate it. Getting an update on that.
Might be statistically impossible to get a 5, but you're pretty much as close as you can be. So
yeah, well, thanks, appreciate that.
And Johnny, you mentioned you guys, if the customers like to talk, you talk with them for a while. Have you heard any interesting stories along your way?
Oh yeah, sure. But I think there was some of the most interesting ones were the people themselves that came in. Actually, since we've been opened, there's actually been a couple of them that stand out. I mean, we get a lot of expatriates from the UK, both England, Scotland. That's one of the things people don't. I do want to point out the name is Burns. The Burns pub is named after my grandmother, who was a Burns, and it's a Scottish name. And we are a Scotch bar, so we don't really kind of lay claim to any specific country in the UK in terms of like, hey, it's an English pub or it's an Irish pub or a Scottish pub. My mother was born in England. Her mother was Welsh, her father was Irish, and my grandmother was Scottish. So it's kind of like we're a hodgepodge of all those things, styles and everything wise. What was I thought the most interesting ones to me was actually right after we opened, there was a gentleman, a rather elderly gentleman, came in and sat at a table in the corner, and I spoke with him for a little bit. And my mother was alive at the time. She unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but my mother was alive at the time, and she wasn't really involved in the day-to-day of the restaurant. That was pretty much all me back in those days. And he sat down, and I spoke with him, and picked up on his accent, of course, and asked him about it. And he said, well, I'm from Northampton originally. And I said, no kidding. My mother's from Northampton, so I brought her out to speak with him. Turns out that he's the father. He was the father of one of my mother's friends in school, like one of her close friends in school, and her father came in, and I thought that was pretty crazy. Here in the middle of Colorado, my mother's school childhood friend's father comes in, and I thought that was very interesting. But that stuff like that, I think has been the most fascinating element. We had another couple that came in. As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time in England when I was young, and we lived in a town called Lidbrook, and we had one of my uncle's clients. He ran a business in Lidbrook. One of my uncle's clients came in, so just kind of random stuff like that, I think, has been the most interesting to me. I mean, we've met some great people and heard some great stories, but that kind of stuff is just the randomness of life, is just really cool to me.
It's a small world,
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
That is crazy though, that you met somebody that was from your mother's hometown in England, and here some odd years later, you guys meet in the middle of Colorado. Like, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, I thought about the math on it, and it's just a little bit beyond my pay grade to figure it out. But it's pretty random for sure. And then his daughter and her were close friends was very interesting. Very cool. And I saw my mother's face light up when they were talking about it, and I came over to listen in, and it was just really cool. Yeah.
Well, I got to ask now too. Do you support any football clubs?
I oddly enough, yeah, Manchester or Man City.
Okay.
I'm a Man City fan. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, you think they're gonna take the league this year?
I'll be honest. I'm a fan, but unfortunately, I'm way too busy to keep up on it. I would love for them to, and if it looks like they will, I'll watch. But unfortunately, I can't keep up on it throughout the year. Are you a fan?
Yeah. I mean, I played high school throughout middle school and high school, so I don't follow like the Premier League like religiously, but I know a good amount about every team, or like stay up to date a little bit.
Yeah, I played competitively when I was a kid. I love the game. It's a excellent game. I think it's probably the best and most grueling sport on the planet. But maybe rugby it might have a beat on that aspect. But yeah, it's a great sport. But you don't actually follow one.
Supporting a club, I mean, the closest I'd probably get is Tottenham.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't consider myself like an avid supporter or anything. I just like their team. Harry Kane's a beast, and so is Son.
Oh yeah, yeah, he is. I'm just glad you didn't say Man U. That's good.
That's funny though. I would say we're from the Midwest, and I would say most of the people here, like in Michigan and Ohio, Liverpool and Man United are the two teams.
Ones. There's a third one too.
I mean, Chelsea's pretty big too.
Yeah.
Chelsea's big. Man U's big. Those are kind of like the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually do. When I was younger, I followed Hull a little bit too, but not as much anymore.
Hull City.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually I met somebody. I went on a cruise a couple of years back and met a guy from Hull, and we were talking about soccer. This is like when I was more into the sport, but that was the first time I've ever met somebody that was a Hull supporter, just because they're a smaller club, right? Yeah, so
there weren't very many of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you're super passionate, and I was like, all right on, man. So I got some respect for Hull City after that.
Yeah, no, Hull's actually kind of cool town actually, but it's a bit run down, but it's a cool town.
Right on.
I think it's probably the part of me that always roots for the underdog. Maybe.
I don't really understand what you guys are saying. You might have to transfer this into like or basketball or something like that.
Right. If you were a Minnesota fan, maybe. Kind of.
What?
I was gonna say I watch a little back when I was in high school and stuff. I watched a little bit of soccer when my friends were on the team. and when we made it to playoffs. And I've seen like a few like Man U and Chelsea games. Other than that, I can't say I really know more than like
Right.
the team.
I gotcha.
But one other thing I do want to ask about, we didn't mention it when we were talking about British food, specifically English breakfast. But what is the brown sauce? Like, why do I keep hearing about this?
Brown sauce. Yeah. Brown sauce is HP sauce or Daddy's brown sauce, which I think is rather unfortunately named, I guess you could say. But Daddy's brown sauce and HP sauce. HP sauce is the most well known for sure. People say it's like England's A1 or Heinz 57 or something like that. It doesn't taste anything like either of those, but it's an all-purpose meat sauce, and it's we serve it at the pub if it's asked for. We don't, because it's not as easy to get a hold of over here, and it is quite expensive over here. But it's on every table in the UK.
Right.
It's just a meat sauce, and I love it. I think it's great. It's a little bit sweet. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's spicy, but it's got some zing to it. A little bit goes a long way.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I don't know where, but I was maybe like watching like a British YouTuber or something. Then like the other day, I saw it as like a recommended food or like a recommended sauce, and I was like, what is this? And I just had no idea. So I figured you might know. Yeah,
a good supermarket actually will carry it. If you go to, they may have like some sort of European foods section, and pick it up. But don't pick up they've got one of them that's like fruity HP. Don't get that.
Yeah, never that.
Yeah, get the original HP. It's that stuff's the bomb, as they say.
Yes, sir.
Frankie, he's a big sauce guy. He puts about 3 to 4 different types of hot sauce on any average meal, from breakfast to dinner and dessert.
What's your favorite hot sauce?
Lately, it's been Valentina. I've been a big fan of that one.
So. Valentina? Okay.
Yeah.
Our go-to, like every day, we use a lot of Cholula. I think we go through about a bottle every 3 days.
Cholula is awesome because it's good and it's cheap.
Yep. Yeah. And then, I mean, if you're making like dips or something, Frank's in Louisiana is always good for dips.
Solid.
Yeah. But we've tried a little bit of everything. We've actually gone a little bit crazy, gotten up to about 1 million or so Scoville hot sauces. And it gets pretty wild once you get that hot.
That's beyond me. I love spicy food, but I can't do the so hot can't even taste anything else kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same realm. Like if it's that hot, I'll put like 1 drop on like 2 pounds of my, tortellinis or pierogies or something. Just the smallest little dot. Yeah, Frankie will put still just as much as you would Cholula, even if it's 1 million Scoville. Don't know how.
Maybe trying to put more of it on there just to get it up to that level.
Yeah, I don't know. After having like my very first experience with Matook's Scorpion hot sauce,
Trinidad Scorpion,
yeah. I've just been chasing the dragon ever since that first meal I've had with it. So yeah, it's been more and more now.
And I will say, for like it's around 1 million Scoville for the heat. It actually does have a little bit flavor because I'm big into like I won't eat anything if it doesn't have flavor. Like there's no point. I don't do it for the hotness,
Right.
That one does have a good flavor as well as a lot of heat.
Yeah.
But I would not go any hotter than that.
You're not going to jump into the 1 chip challenge or whatever it is?
No, none of the what do you call it? The ghost pepper or anything like that. We actually did get a ghost pepper sauce, but it wasn't like anything. It was like 76,000 Scoville or something. It wasn't any of the super crazy ones.
So going back to spirits, not to change the subject because it isn't really. It's on the same subject. I'm a spirits judge as well. I'm one of the judges at the North American Bourbon and Whiskey Competition, which is usually held in New Orleans, but COVID's kind of changed that. But we taste a lot of different whiskeys, bourbons, ryes, all from all over the U.S. One of them came in listed as a flavored bourbon, I believe it was. Didn't say anything else. but it was a ghost pepper bourbon. Come to find out later on, because you don't know when you're tasting it. You taste these things blind, and so we had no warning that this was going to be a ghost pepper bourbon. And initially it tasted. I mean, like you could tell something was different, but the heat, like afterwards, I was like, "Are you kidding me? What the hell is this?" And, so I actually, we graded it. And we got the after the judging was in, we found out what everything was, and it was a ghost pepper bourbon. I was like, "Wow, okay." I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but
Jesus.
but they did. So that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the you come full circle there. There you go.
Always, yeah.
People trying to break the chains of what we expect, I guess.
So did that spirit get any like brownie points for creativity or originality?
To me it did. I wouldn't say the creativity aspect of it. I would for authenticity. If it was something that I bought it knowing it was a ghost pepper bourbon, that's probably what I would expect. I gave it a little bit extra. I don't know if the other judges really saw it that way, but that's how I saw it. So I gave it a little bit of credit for putting something out there that I hadn't seen yet. Anyway, I mean,
Right.
I've had peppered bourbon before, but not quite like that. That was if you want that, right? I think you should go down there and get some. Actually,
I really actually do want to try it.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
It clearly wasn't Fireball, but
Yeah, New Orleans. Actually, the last podcast we did, they were like 3 hours away. Where was it? Georgia?
No,
or not Georgia?
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah, they were Arkansas, about 3 hours away from New Orleans, and they loved New Orleans and just talked about it a lot, and just all the culture there and all the different foods and drinks. And I actually went there once, but after hearing them talk about it and you as well, it's like, dang, I don't think I even got close to the full experience.
It's a fascinating city, really. I mean, it's one of those kind of places that you want to go with a friend or two and just really kind of explore, because it's a very fascinating place. We went to a place there. My buddy Adam Douglas, who's also a judge and somebody I collaborate with from time to time, he took me to this place. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was a bar called the something Christmas Bar. If you look up Christmas Bar, you'll probably find it. Christmas Bar, New Orleans. But it's weird because it's in a neighborhood. It's a basically a converted house that's in the middle of this suburban neighborhood, and it's just the weirdest place I've ever been. Maybe.
Yeah, I just looked up a picture of it. Yeah, it is literally a house. It is Snake and Jake's Christmas Club.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
This is literally just a house in a neighborhood, and it's got like a beer tent outside, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trip, man. But yeah, we ended up there at the end of the tasting a few years back, and it was surreal. It was we were already, I think, a little tipsy, but it was a bit surreal, and but it was fun though. We had a good time. Very cool.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And from what everyone that we've talked to has said, like New Orleans, you don't run out of stuff to do or places to go, really.
No, there's plenty to do. There's so much great food there too. I think it's one of the most underrated food cities in the country.
Okay.
What's your favorite dish from around that area?
I would say probably clams Rockefeller.
Okay. Yep.
And probably muffaladas. I love muffaladas. I love olives. So yeah.
It's hard to beat a good jambalaya too.
Oh yeah, yeah, nice, good. Get a little kick to it. Absolutely.
Yep. The only thing I wasn't a fan of was the alligator bites because just the consistency of the alligator just a little weird for my personal liking.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. It is a little odd. I like them okay. Oh, I also love bananas Foster. I mean, for dessert, what an awesome dessert! And that started in New Orleans.
You're gonna have to enlighten me. What is that?
It's basically caramelized banana rum. I mean, I really
Okay,
shouldn't explain it more than that. It's like it's got booze and bananas, and yeah, it's delicious. It's really good.
Yeah,
yeah.
they have some crazy desserts around there. The beignets, those are always a good choice too.
Yeah, my wife loves those.
Yep, and then what I love the most, those little walk-in bars every like 10 steps. Those were always nice. You can get a like an extra large drink for like $9-10 and
Yeah, and you
just
can
walk
go
up.
one.
But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I would definitely go back.
Yeah, yeah, it's a cool city, no doubt about it. The French Quarter is someplace you got to be careful, but it's a cool city.
Oh yeah, actually, I was looking up that place you said. I saw it was on the more west side. We actually didn't even make it all the way over there. We just stayed around Bourbon Street and the French Quarter, and then the historic district right there to the east. I can't think of what it's called, but there was just a bunch of jazz music everywhere, and it
Oh,
was yeah, it's
great
crazy.
place for jazz, and you find some great jazz in places you just didn't expect. Just kind of probably you walk by some little restaurant or something like that, and they're playing jazz in there. You go in and check it out, and the band's great. It's really cool environment there. They got a great World War II museum too. If you ever get a chance to check that out.
Actually, I did go there. So
Oh,
we actually went there it was our last day, and we had about 2 hours to spare. And it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the museum closed. So we went there, and the guy's like, "Hey, we only have 2 hours left. You're only going to get to see like a quarter, maybe half of the museum." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he let us in for free, and we explored it. We made it, like you said, about 25% maybe through the whole
yeah,
museum. But what we got to see was amazing. I mean, all the little scenes they have, you go in and you press the buttons, they give you a little backstory. That was a great experience.
yeah, yeah. It is a really cool museum. Did you make it to the Sherman tank?
Um, no, we didn't make it. The only museum we actually got the chance to see was the WW2. We didn't really plan the trip all too well. We kind of just went there, may have drank a little too much during that period, and didn't get to sightsee quite as much as we wanted.
Well, they have a Sherman tank in the museum, and it's interesting because the Sherman tank uh, wasn't really known as a huge tank by any means, but you get to see one in person, and you're like, this thing's massive. I mean,
Yeah.
way bigger than you thought they were.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that, sadly. I guess I'll just have to go and visit it again next time we go
Yeah,
back. uh,
yeah, cool town for sure. Where are you guys based out of?
Toledo, Ohio. So we're south of Ann Arbor, west of Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
So it's we're a city of about 350,000, right?
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
right,
almost 400,000.
Yeah, somewhere around that. It's decent, but nothing, huge.
right.
It's
I,
pretty good spot. I mean, like we're within an hour of Detroit. We're within an hour of Ann Arbor.
2 hours of Cleveland.
Yep.
I hear good things about Ann Arbor. I hear it's a cool town.
Oh yeah, Ann Arbor is always fun. It's a good little mix between like college and professional. They call it the Silicon Valley of the Midwest, I believe, because it's
Right.
very tech based, especially with how good University of Michigan's engineering program is. They have a lot of very prestigious engineers come out of that school, and a lot of them start tech companies and whatnot. So it's referred to as the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. And if you ever get the chance to come to the Midwest, I would definitely recommend Ann Arbor and Detroit and
Yeah.
Cleveland. I preferably like Cleveland and Ann Arbor a little better than Detroit, but I haven't explore Detroit quite as much either.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah. I hear Detroit's having a bit of a resurgence, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's working its way up, and same with Toledo. I mean, right now, just in our downtown alone, we have multiple $50 million plus projects going on. They're redoing all the roads. They're putting in a bunch of residential units downtown, trying to just like completely redo the whole downtown area and make it a place where people really want to stay and, be from. So
Well, I'll go there someday.
Please do, yeah. And the Toledo Public Library just got done like a couple of years back, and that is like just a gorgeous library.
Mm-hmm.
It is so cool. So
I'm just glad that they still have libraries.
Oh yeah. The one in Toledo is pretty busy. I mean, it's pretty modernized. They have like audio and like media production rooms. They have graphics. They have
And going off of what Frankie said, they have like an actual like studio where people can come into. So that's a great attraction. And it's nice that they kind of, even though it is a library, you have the opportunity to, I mean, that some studios can be $1,000 an hour. So it's nice that they give people the opportunity to have that for free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've seen too many libraries closing down, and everybody's kind of just attached to their phones and everything like that these days. So it's good to see that they're still putting them up as well.
Yeah, going off of that a little bit, what is your favorite book personally?
Oh, my favorite book, boy. I'm a big Jack Kerouac fan. And I just recently read, I'm going to go with probably my most recent book that I read from him, which was Big Sur. And it really, being in this business, I think that it's very easy to be sucked into the evils of alcohol, if you will. And I think that book did a really good job of showing how bad alcoholism can be, or just how it can kind of wreck your life if you're not careful, And I thought that was a great book. I think it's one of his more underrated works, to be honest. But yeah, I used to read a lot more than I do these days. Obviously, time and everything like that, but yeah, I like my Jack Kerouac, and was a big fan of Oscar Wilde as well. Read a lot of his plays. Obviously, he wasn't known as a novelist, but his one novel was pretty brilliant. So yeah, if I was going to pick one, that's probably the one I'd pick right now. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll put those in a list of my books to read. It's like half business books, and I like half kind of fun, and not necessarily fun, but half business and half entertainment books, I guess.
Right.
Well, he's not an easy read. I will say that. If you've never read his work, it takes a while to get used to, because he's very, I mean, like to the nth degree, stream of consciousness, doesn't punctuate, doesn't, it's tricky to read for a lot of people, and especially to get into. But once you kind of figure out that his writing style is based on jazz rhythms or musical rhythm or rhythmic quality, then it is about the easiness of understanding, I guess. Because when I first started reading him, I liked it because I liked the rhythm to it, but I didn't quite catch everything he was saying, and I found myself having to read, things 2 or 3 times, and then before I finally picked up on it, it's like, oh, okay, that's how it works. And so, it is a little bit tricky to get used to.
Gotcha. I mean, a challenge is always fun, though, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Got to challenge yourself all times, right?
Of course.
All right, I'm going to bring it back now just a little bit. So when you first started working in the food and beverage industry, was your first exposure to the industry the Burns Pub and Restaurant, or did you work somewhere before that?
No, I actually started in the industry a long time ago. I actually graduated with a graphic design degree, but uh, I started serving at a very big chain. I'm not going to mention any names, but a big chain, and I quickly became a server trainer with them, and then I kind of moved into other areas. Hated working for corporations, so probably, I think a big part of uh, the Burns pub and and at least my vision for it anyway. And obviously, like I said, it's not just my vision anymore. It's kind of the family's vision. But uh, my vision was, kind of who I am growing up in the punk scene, and but having a deep love for tradition at the same time, and that's kind of the, trying, not necessarily being against everything, but, you know, kind of seeing things in a different way and realizing that it's okay to not see things the way that everybody else sees them, and bringing tradition and a love for traditional things into it, and as well. And so, I guess kind of going from my restaurant experience with corporations and realizing, fortunately, pretty early on that I never wanted to work for corporations ever again. Started working at local bars, started working at local restaurants type thing. And then I've done just about everything under the sun outside of the industry, but I keep going back to it. And I do love the industry. So, it's like my father says, you got to have a servant's heart in this industry. You have to love making people happy and seeing people enjoy what you do. So I've been probably in the service industry for over 20 years. Actually, for sure, over 20 years, on and off. But yeah.
And what do you think you would be doing right now if you were partly, owning and operating a bar with your family?
Probably something involving either cars or graphic design, one of the two.
Or both?
Or both, yeah.
Okay.
I think that in fact, that was kind of a childhood dream of mine, was to be a car designer. So, and just life kind of takes different paths and whatever. But I do love graphic design, and I incorporate it into the pub quite a bit. And so it'd probably be one of those things. And that's, who knows where life takes you, right?
Right.
Oh, of course. So you've been in the industry for a little while now. How would you say that social media has changed the game?
Oh boy, good question. I think that it's I think that we've obviously gone away from print and been more reliant on things like Facebook. I think Facebook is about the only social media that we actually do. I mean, we have a Twitter account. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to use it. I'll be completely honest. And the pub and restaurant actually, is much more reliant on word of mouth than it is anything else. And that's partially because we're cheap. But I think that Facebook is a good medium. I think it works, and it's inexpensive. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you get a good following, and people follow you, and you kind of grow it from there. And so I think that that's great for restaurants. And I definitely think that anybody thinking about starting a restaurant should really look into things like Facebook, things like Instagram, and stuff like that, because it can be a great way if you. I mean, like I said, I'm not good with that kind of thing, but I know that it's been a huge benefit to a lot of my friends in the industry, and they utilize it every chance they get, and it's worked really well for them. So yeah, that's it's definitely changed the game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's revolutionary. I mean, you can have people that leave reviews. It tells you how many people have checked in at your restaurant, how many people like your page. Direct links to Google Maps where you're located. To your website. So yeah, I think it's a pretty invaluable tool for pretty much anybody looking to start a business, regardless of industry.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be the restaurant or bar industry. It can be any kind of business, really. I mean, anything where you are relying on getting a customer base. Like I said, I mean, I'm pretty old school when it comes to stuff like that, and it's something that I'm reluctant to get too involved in, but I know very well that I should. It's just one of those things that I've always been a face to face, in person kind of guy, So it's the idea of sitting behind a computer all day and trying to blast out tweets and posting posts on Facebook and everything like that. I mean, we do it, but yeah, not my favorite thing to do. I'd much rather be out there talking to customers. Very hands on when it comes to stuff like that. But again, I don't think that that's a good model for everybody. I think that if you could utilize it, definitely do.
Right. And kind of going off of communicating with people and interacting with people. What percent capacity is your guys' pub at right now?
About 50%, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, about 50%, and we have been. I mean, we're at full capacity on the weekends in terms of that, but because of the social distancing thing with COVID, I mean, we got hit hard by COVID, and the fact that we're still around, I think, is a testament to our loyal customers. Because I mean, without them, we wouldn't have made it. We just to put this into perspective, I mean, by far our biggest day of the year is St. Patrick's Day, and the here in Colorado, at least, all the laws came down on St. Patrick's Day, and so we had been, we brine our own corned beef. It takes us 2 weeks to make it. We had a whole bunch of corned beef brining, and getting ready for St. Patrick's Day. Ordered a bunch of whiskeys and that type of thing. So the COVID hit, and of course we're kind of stuck with all of this inventory, and we were like, I don't know what we're going to do. It was a very genuine worry for us, and so we had to go to takeout only on St. Patrick's Day, and we actually did a lot better than we thought we would, and it kept going like that throughout the lockdown period. And so I gotta say thank you to all of the customers for coming in and telling us their stories about how they wouldn't feel right if they didn't try and support us through the lockdown. I mean, it's been sincerely, it's been huge. So we made it through, and now we're at about 50% capacity with the tables being spaced. Of course, following all the regulations. We are fortunate to have a patio as well, which has been really important, because most people like to sit outside, that type of thing. So that's helped a lot, and it's helped expand our ability to survive, on 50% capacity. Because as everybody knows, and I'm sure you guys know this, the restaurant business is very small margins, and if you can't meet those, then it's tricky to stay alive. And so that's, it's been really heartwarming to see everybody come out and support. We really appreciate it.
That's awesome to hear that you guys have such a great following. And Yeah, from what we've been told, most bars and restaurants we've interviewed have said that you make most of your money from drinks, and food is just kind of there because people enjoy it and they like having food with their dinner, and it's essential to have because of that.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned St. Patty's Day, Johnny. Before COVID, how is St. Patty's Day usually celebrated at Burns?
With a very limited menu, because it's just impossible for that tiny kitchen to put out that much food. I mean, we get absolutely hammered on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, it's great. We love it. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hard work too. We do have to pare it down. And I mean, I mentioned the corned beef because corned beef and cabbage is, the big thing on St. Patrick's Day, and it is a little strange because we're not technically speaking an Irish pub, but at the same time, it's certainly the closest thing in our area, and people love the corned beef. So yeah, we just get absolutely hammered on St. Patrick's Day. And probably after everybody's left, we get hammered some more.
uh, that's the way to do
Yeah, that's how you got to rule on St. Patrick's Day, right?
And the next day after St. Patty's Day, what would you say is your hangover recipe?
uh, uh, BC powder and Gatorade. That's been my go-to for decades.
I haven't heard of that. Where'd you come up with that one?
Well, are you familiar with BC powder?
No, I'm not.
Ah, yeah, yeah. It's basically aspirin and caffeine in powdered form, and it literally knocks out my hangover in about 5 minutes, maybe 10 if it's really bad. But yeah, BC powder, and then just swallow. Wash it down with some Gatorade. I'm not going to say it's the most pleasant thing in the world. BC powder it's chalky. It doesn't taste good, but it works. So I just drop a BC powder and wash it down with some Gatorade and wait about 10 minutes and get on with my day.
Nice.
Even if
Sound-
even if it doesn't knock it out completely, I'll still get on with my day.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of that plus some electrolytes, and you're all good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it. That's pretty good strategy. I have not heard that one.
Yeah.
BC powder.
Yeah,
Gonna check it out for sure.
Oh, definitely.
definitely worth a try. And if it doesn't work for you, then try it again because I think it works for me about 90% of the time, and I haven't found anything else that does. To be honest with you, all these Bloody Mary concoctions and everything like that, yeah, not down with it.
I mean, I would drink, or I would get the BC powder and the Gatorade, then probably still have a Bloody Mary.
Well, yeah.
Just cause,
It's okay to double down, right? You gotta hedge your bets if that's. And
Yep.
there is some truth to the hair of the dog too. I mean, there's no question that doing maybe a shot or something like that next morning will help. I know it's probably not politically correct to say that, but that's the fact. So.
Uh, and so if you're not at Burns and you're around your hometown, where would you say your favorite restaurant or bar is that's not your own?
Uh, I got to give a shout out to I guess the Nevada Tavern. Probably, I think it's there's a I think that's been my go-to, and I don't go there anywhere near enough. But it's I love the environment there. I think it's, if not the best cocktail bar in the Denver metro area, it's certainly one of them. I mean, there are others that have probably more notoriety, but I would put their bartender, a guy by the name of Jeremy. I think without question is the best bartender I've ever seen, and I've been in the business a long time. The guy's amazing, and he's too humble to admit it, but that's the truth. And I know a lot of other people that feel the same way. Great cocktails, really cool atmosphere. I just dig the Arvada Tavern. Yeah.
That's pretty high praise for a bartender, and like you said, he's pretty well known in the area. What makes a great bartender?
Well, he's personable, fast, and makes the drinks right. And he's very professional in his demeanor. He's like I said, he's a humble guy, but he's just absolutely just knows exactly what he's doing. He's very studied, very knowledgeable. Can make a great recommendation for you. He's all the things that you'd look for in a bartender. And he probably thinks I got a crush on him if he ever listens to this. But a man crush, I guess. But yeah, he's just a great bartender. Of course, all the bartenders there are well, I can't say recently because I haven't been there in a long time. But they got another bartender, Jen. She's fantastic. Bartenders that every one of them I've experienced have been top notch. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's better than if I was your bartender. I'd give you like some Fireball or something.
exactly. Yeah. What's your that age old question? What's your favorite cocktail to make? Like as if there is one. And then you just ginger ale and you're good.
Yes, sir.
So going off some more fun questions, what's the most thrill-seeking thing you've ever done?
I actually, believe it or not, and this may surprise some of the people that know me. I actually love thrill seeking. I would say probably, I've been skydiving. You mean that's legal, or?
I mean, legal, illegal.
I mean, we could. We have a good producer. He can always cut off anything illegal. Yeah.
We'll go on the legal record. Skydiving. I loved it. It was amazing. I'm going to do it again. I've done it a couple times. Actually, speaking of hangovers, the very first time I went skydiving, I was so hungover, and I'd been drinking the night before, and it was for my friend Leah's birthday, and I slept in, and I didn't have time to take my BC powder and Gatorade. I had to go, and so in fact, they came by to pick me up, and I was like, oh shit, I'm out the door. So I was super hungover the first time I did it, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember it very much. I remember looking out over the mountains, going, "This is really, really high," and it was from a place up in Longmont. They do the highest drop point in Colorado, and I couldn't believe how high we were dropping from. It was insane. But outside of that, I don't remember much of it. I remember this. It was a tandem drop, and he said, "Hey, do you want to pull the cord?" And I was too hungover to grab the cord. I tried to reach behind me, but I was like, I couldn't find it. I was just like, oh God, this sucks. We're going to die, and because I can't find the cord. And so eventually he said, all right, don't worry about it. I got it, Well, that was my first experience doing it, but I went again, and it really is amazing.
Do you know how high up you were when you had dropped?
I know I did at the time, but I can't remember because the second time I dropped, I went from the same place. It's really high, and when you're in Colorado, it's tricky to breathe up there. But yeah, it was really high. I don't remember the exact drop point height, but yeah, it had the others beat by thousands of feet. So.
I'm sure the views in Colorado were amazing while you were doing that as well.
Oh, it was, yeah, absolutely incredible, yeah.
And it's funny that you had mentioned that story, Johnny, because I actually went skydiving for about 4 or 5 years ago for my high school graduation, and we went about 14,000 feet up, And at the time, I didn't start traveling until I was like 17, 18. So at the time, I had never been in a plane that I remembered. And we went 14,000 feet up in the plane. And then you just kind of look down. You're like, well, all right, I'm already up here, so might as well go down. And then the guy I was with, he was like, oh, yeah, you can loosen up your harness if you want. It seems like it's a little tight on you. I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching this. We're all good. I'll be fine. So,
Right.
but for anybody that's listening, it is definitely an experience I would recommend, especially in a place like Colorado, like where there's mountains and just scenery all around.
Yeah, it is incredible. You're looking down on mountaintops. It's insane. It's really cool. As a other side note, though, the guy I jumped tandem with, I'm 6'2" and about 230 pounds, and the guy I jumped tandem with was, let's just say, much smaller. Somebody asked the question because I think they were getting nervous. That was on the jump, going up to the jump point with us. Said, well, what if we get up there and we don't want to jump? And the instructor said, well, you're going to jump. You've got somebody attached to your back. You're going to jump. And I raised my hand and I said, well, what if you're way bigger than the guy that's attached to your back? I was just kind of like, yeah, well, I don't have an answer to that.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, once that plane leaves, you're not getting your money back. So my thing was, already up here, my sister actually had taken me, and I looked over at her and her face was like white and pale. And she had traveled, she travels all the time, 3-4 vacations a year, and she's been on planes, 50 times. And she was just like sitting up there. She had never jumping out of one though, so she was just pale in the face. I'm like, you'll be fine. But it is nerve-wracking. I mean, you're jumping out of a plane, but the guy I was with kind of calmed my nerves. He's like, look, I do this, 50 times a day or whatever it is, a few hundred times a week. And he's like, I got a family to get home to. So he's like, if I didn't think this safe, if this isn't safe, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. They've been on thousands and thousands of jumps, and they know how safe it is and everything like that. I think that the first time I jumped, I don't know if I would have been scared or not, but I was too hungover to be scared. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, if I die, I die, whatever.
Get me down to the ground somehow.
Maybe that's a blessing at this point. So if there's a lesson to be learned, if you haven't skydived yet, my recommendation to you is go hungover. That's a lesson to be learned.
So you said you enjoy thrill seeking a lot. Is there any other stories you have along those lines?
I don't know. I suppose stories like that. I don't know. I've been to Costa Rica and been ziplining and doing a lot of stuff like that. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to get drunk and go jump on moving trains, and I fell off of one time and broke a bone, and tried to explain it away to it was it was not the kind of smart thing to do. When I was a kid, I did a lot of stupid stuff. Let's just say that. But some things I can't say because, like I said, my father.
Understandable, yeah.
I like to keep the secret to my grave, or at least as long as I can anyway. So.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, so I've loved. It's not the whole looking danger in the face kind of thing. It's just, it's just fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine trying to explain that one, like you broke a bone, like jumping on like a train or something. You're like, oh yeah, I was just helping to repair the church roof or something. I fell off.
Boy, I wish I had thought of that one. Jeez.
That's what Frankie always told his parents, that he was just, helping out at the church.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a dangerous job helping at the church. There are all sorts of obstacles there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Never know what could happen.
That's funny. Do you have any crazy ghost stories?
I'm not. I don't really believe in ghosts too much, but I do. I've seen enough things to certainly question myself. In fact, when I was when I first moved out to Colorado, I actually moved into the innkeeper's quarters at the inn, and this was back when it was just a tea room, and I said it wasn't first when I moved here, but not long after, and I was at the innkeeper's quarters, and back in those days, there was actually a doorway that went from the innkeeper's quarters, which was right behind the kitchen to the tea room, and so you could go through to the from the innkeeper's quarters. We've blocked that up since then, but I used to hear noises late at night on a semi-regular basis, and it was a little bit creepy at times because it was stuff like pots falling from the kitchen and stuff like that when there was nobody in there, and we had this monitor that it was like super old school. I mean, like think of something from the 1960s, with the fuzzy picture and everything like that. And but we only had a couple of cameras out there, and one of them was facing the lobby to the inn, in case anything happened, whatever, if somebody was coming back. But so I would sleep downstairs in the living room and fall asleep watching TV or something like that. But the monitor was always on, and it was this kind of ever present fixture in the room. And I didn't pay much attention to it until I heard a noise or something like that. And late at night, heard a noise, looked up at the monitor, didn't see anything, but heard another noise right after that. And so I went through the doorway out into the tea room dining area, looked around, didn't see anything, walked around, went into the lobby, down the staircase that goes down to the basement, came back up, turned around and looked around, didn't see anything. So I went back into the innkeeper's quarters. Wasn't thinking anything of it, but then I looked at the monitor and saw some weird black kind of figure coming up from the basement that I just came up from, and then it just kind of disappeared. It was there for a good 4 or 5 seconds, and it wasn't something that was normally on that screen. So I have no way to explain it. I don't know. Being a skeptic myself, I'd like to think that it was, maybe just something with the TV, but it being an old, rudimentary, from some 60s science fiction TV show or something like that. But it was enough to creep me out. And so that was a little bit weird. So I'm not saying that the Burns pub is haunted. Okay. I'm just saying it was weird. That's it.
Not like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
No, nothing tapping on my shoulder or anything like that. No.
Yeah, I actually started watching that because I watch all the Black Mirrors. I don't know if you've seen those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and those were great. And I'm like, I just need something that's semi-close. So I just started watching seasons of The Twilight Zone because it's about as close as you can get to Black Mirror, just less modern, of course.
I love the old. I still watch them to this day. They've got them on Netflix. I watch old Twilight Zone episodes all the time.
Yeah. I'm still freaked out that you said you saw like a black figure coming up the stairs behind you.
It was. I wouldn't say it was a figure, but it was definitely some sort of. Yeah, you could say it was a figure, but it was definitely some sort of black fuzzy spot that kind of moved up from the stairwell and just disappeared. It kind of just faded off, and I don't know if I was seeing things or I don't know how to explain it. it was just awkward, and I didn't say awkward. It was creepy. It freaked me out. I locked all the doors, then locked them again. You know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, we're winding down the podcast. What would you say is one piece of life advice that you'd give to the audience?
Have kids, or have a kid. I don't know if I'd say have kids, but that's if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have had some completely different answer. But since I've had my daughter, she literally, she literally redefines what I thought love was every single day. It's something that I just never thought I'd experience. I never had any desire to have kids. I just have the one, but she's plenty enough. But yeah, it's a pretty amazing experience, and it gets you to really, it may sound a bit cliche, but it gets you to really kind of focus on what's important in life if you do it right, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't really attest to it. I don't have any kids myself or anything, but yeah, I can imagine it changes your entire perspective on life. So that's pretty great.
Yeah, it really does, and it's not, it's not like an epiphany. It's a gradual thing. I think, at least to me, it was. And I don't, I think that the world is probably overpopulated. So if you're not a smart person, or if you're a pretty mean spirited person or something like that, don't have kids. Just live a miserable life and then be off the planet. But if you're a good person and have a lot to give, it'd be a good idea, because it really does kind of get you to see things in a very different perspective, and really understand what love's all about.
Right on.
Not to sound sappy or nothing, but that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, actually, I probably do. Do you guys are you guys in the business, or how did this all come about?
You want to field this one or me?
Oh yeah, I got it. So kind of a long story. We started about a year and a half ago. There was a team of about 6 of us, and we had an idea for, I believe Frankie and one of the other guys came up with the idea. The application was called Bar Crawl, and 2 of our friends were actually software engineers, and we had kind of started this team around this application. And the goal of it was to safely get people from bar to bar, as well as finding the best bars in your area. So we came together because of this. And then we ended up starting the AfterHours podcast due to just it's good marketing for the application, as well as we just kind of wanted to get to know the people in the industry, see what would be helpful for them, and just get insight into what it actually like being a bar and restaurant owner. And then a little bit after that, we actually started a software company. We have about 8 full-time people now, and then a big pile of contractors as well. And we've been doing that for about a year and 3 months as of this month. And everything's been going well with the software company and the podcast. We kind of had to put the application on hold a little bit due to the coronavirus and, PR reasons and whatnot. And but other than that, everything's been going well, and we really enjoy the podcast. So regardless of what happens with the application, we still plan on releasing it, maybe mid next year. But we still plan on continue to doing the podcast, and we've done about 35 episodes now, and we really love it and enjoy everybody that we've met in this industry. So.
Oh, cool. Well, there are a lot of great people in the industry for sure. I think you guys are doing a great job. So I wish you all the best with it. I think it's a great idea. Probably not enough podcasts that get into the aspect of running these businesses, because it is really rewarding work, but it is a lot of hard work. It's not easy. There's no question about it. But if you love it, it's definitely something that I think maybe for people that are looking to start up a restaurant or a bar or something like that, I think you guys are doing a good service.
Yeah, we just love helping everybody, and anybody who's listening, to helping them, kind of not only see what it's like into the world of a bar and restaurant owner, somebody in the food and beverage industry, but also just see what the business world is like.
Right.
And hopefully, if everything ends up well, Frank and I will be opening a bar here in a few years too.
Yes, sir.
So,
Well, I'll have to. If you do, I'll have to come out to see you in Toledo.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
And we're definitely gonna make our round to Colorado, or our rounds to Colorado here in the next probably year. We kind of have like a little cross country plan scheduled for mid next year too, and we're gonna hit you guys, Lee Spirits, and a bunch of other ones we've done in the West, Midwest, and make a little trip out of it. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to having you and meeting you in person then.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, cannot wait. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being a guest on the show. And then lastly, make sure to check you guys out on Facebook, the Burns Pub and Restaurant, and then also check out their website, theburnspub.com. And is there anything else you'd like to plug at the end here?
No, just if you guys come in, please ask if any of your listeners come in, just ask for Johnny. I'd be happy to meet you, and let's talk whiskey.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you,
Appreciate
Johnny.
it.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.